Shalom, I'm Rabbi Jonathan Ginsburg of the Ezra Habanim Niles Township Jewish Congregation of Skokie. This video is going to try and explore the various models of Jewish spirituality. There are many Jews who think that their kind of Judaism is the correct one. But actually, when you look at Judaism in the totality, spanning 4,000 years, you find that in every generation there have been different emphases. Sometimes in a particular generation there have been multiple emphases, and then sometimes one generation, one spiritual model has been predominant. So I want to just briefly outline what they are and help understand the Jewish people today and the way in which they manifest themselves and disperse themselves among these various models. You may find in exploring your own spirituality and your own religious commitments that one of these five you gravitate towards more than the others. Our key as a synagogue is to try and provide models that you can access in all these areas and hope that you have a little bit of each one and that you grow in all of them. But I understand, and I think we all understand, that different Jews are going to have different foci. In fact, we have an interesting custom in the fall when we carry a lulav and etrog around, a date palm branch and willow and myrtle branches and a citron fruit. And one of the classic rabbinic stories about it is that these represent all the different kinds of Jews, but you have to hold them together in order to do the blessing. So what are these models? Well, one is we'll call religious or pietistic. And that is, you probably know Jews, and this is predominant among the Orthodox, for whom all of the details of Jewish ritual observance, saying the proper prayers at the proper time, and observing the ritual commandments, for them that is the key to Judaism, and everything else is secondary. Now, I believe that Jews should live by the Jewish tradition and observe Jewish life, but it's a question of emphasis. And of course, there are many Jews who don't. But the Jews for whom they do, this is the religious pietistic model, and it's one model of Jewish spirituality. A second is intellectual, Talmud Torah. I'll give you an example. My father, may his memory be for a blessing, was a very devoted Jew. Now, he wasn't the most observant guy in the world, Jewishly, but he read fanatically. He was the biggest borrower of books from the public library. He constantly had a stack of books and journals about Jewish subjects he was constantly reading. He was a busy lawyer, but he taught Sunday school. And then I think about my professors at the seminary, who were very observant in Jewish practice, but their basic spiritual model of Judaism was the intellectual, the study. A third we would call Zionist or community. Don't separate yourself from the community. Those are people for whom love and commitment to the state of Israel, preserving the memory of the Holocaust, fighting anti-Semitism, raising money for Jewish causes, attending committee meetings, for them that is their primary model of Jewish spirituality. Fourth is social action. This grows out of the idea of the prophets. When Isaiah says in the Haftorah we read on Yom Kippur morning, I don't want you just to fast and still cheat the poor. I want the fast to be clothing the naked and feeding the hungry. When we talk about imitating God, imitatio Dei, following God's path, we talk about those commandments which are deeds of loving kindness. Tikkun olam, repairing the world. And that's why you can understand when you look at all of the many do-gooder organizations in the world, how many of them were organized by Jews, are financed by Jews, are run by Jews, because of the deep commitment to this spiritual model. And finally, something that's gaining new strength after a period of lull, but it was very strong in the Middle Ages too and in earlier times, and that is the spiritual or Kabbalistic model of Jewish mysticism. People for whom the mystical and drawing close to God in a spiritually intense way is the most important. So to review these five spiritual models, religious pietistic is one, intellectual Talmud Torah study is number 2, 3 would be Zionism and a commitment to the people, 4 would be social action, and 5 would be spiritual or Kabbalistic. We need to understand that in all periods of Jewish history, in different communities and different times, different one of these has been ascendant, but there have always been Jews for whom these have been the primary models. They're all valid dimensions of Judaism, and it's perfectly understandable that a different kind of personality would be drawn to one or another of these. But a full Jew would be someone who feels each of these to some degree, and I imagine that you probably encounter Jews who say that their model is the correct one and the one that Jews should live. But it's really impossible to understand the Jewish people today without understanding these models and the way in which different Jewish people understand and live out their Jewish life, the various spiritual dimensions of Judaism. Hope this helps clarify.